Okay, so now we'll continue on Daf Tezayin Amud Aleph on page 16, side A. So, further explaining the pasuk in the Megilah Esther. That's what we're up to in the Gemara over here. So it says, Vayikra Lefonov, and he called before him. That is, the king instructed that Haman should call before him. That is before Mordechai, and announce Kocho Ye'ose La'ish Asher Hamelech Chofetz B'Yikari. So shall be done to the man which the king wishes to honor him. And that's where he rode him around all over the city, leading Haman. Haman is being led. Haman was leading Mordechai. Mordechai was on the horse, wearing the special garments of the king, and Haman was in front of him. So the Gemara tells us, the Gemara is going to explain, says like this. Kahavi nokid va'ozil bishvilo dibei Haman. When he came to the street where Haman lived, Chazisei berate the kaimo aigra, his daughter, who was in the roof, she saw this image, somebody going in front, announcing, so is done to the man that the king wishes to honor, and there's somebody sitting on the horse. Sabra. So she thought, Hai the Rochiv, the one who is riding the horse, Abuha, that must be the father. Father must be riding the horse. But Vahai the Mazgi Kamei, and who was the one that is leading in front of him? That's Mordechai. So she figured now is her opportunity. Shoklo atzitzo debei sakise. So she took the otzitz, that is the pot. It was an earthen pot that people used to use to do their needs in. That's what they used to use. She took an atzitza, that earthen pot of the Beis HaKisei, of the toilet, v'shadite aresha de abuha, and she threw it on her father's head, thinking that she's throwing it on Mordechai, but she actually ended up throwing it on her father's head because he was the one that was leading. She thought that Mordechai was leading her father, and then her father was actually leading Mordechai, so she threw it on his father's head. So all the disgusting stuff in that bucket came running down all over Haman's head. Rashi says, what is this otzitz? Otzitz, Rashi says, is a klicheres. That's a earthen vessel. That's the klicheres. And Dolly Eine, so she picked up her eyes and she took a look, and what does she see? And she sees Bechozes Dabuahu. She sees that it's her father. So she really felt bad that what she had just done, she has dumped that whole trash thing on her father. So Nafla me igra la'aro mesa. So she fell from the roof down to the floor of a mesa, and she died. So this is the meaning of the pasuk. How do we know this whole story? This fits in with the story of the pasuk. Behind the seed, it says in the pasuk like this: by Yoshua, after this whole incident, the honor, the king gave him the honor, he was leading him. It says Mordechai returned to the gate of the king. And then it says, we're going to see in a minute, this is we're darshaning a half a pasuk at a time. And Haman was pushed in his house. It says like this: Avel, he was mourning, and he was also chafui rosh. His head was covered with all the stuff from the toilet was in his head. So, how did this fits in with the story? So let's look inside. So Vayosh of Mordechai El Shar Hamelech, Mordechai returned to the gate of the king. This all happened, as we will see. They fasted as soon as the decree was passed in Shushan, and that was on the 13th. But on the 14th, Mordechai declared, Esther said to Mordechai, they should fast for 3 days. That was the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th. And you remember the Gemara said before that Vayaver Mordechai, they violated the Pesach because they fasted on Pesach. So it was 14th, the 15th, and the 16th. So this was on the second day, she made the party for him. On the second day, when they came, when did the king say? That was before she made the party. That was when the king, and that's when the king said to Haman to go ahead and take Mordechai. That's when she threw this stuff in it. So by Yoshev Mordechai, Moshe returned. What did he return? What was he doing that he returned? So the Gemara, Rav Sheshes, Sheshav l'sakei v'litanisui. He went back to his sack that he was wearing. And remember, it says in the Haggadah, "Vayilbash sak va'efer." He put on a sack and ashes, and he went in the city and he started crying out. So now he returns back to his sack and his fasting. Because of the 3 days, the fasting, this was the third day. He had another day, so he came back to the fasting. Rashi says, "Utanisoi." This story, which they remember before, also we learned last week. I mean, last time we learned over there, we learned that Mordechai said to Haman, "I can't get up because I'm fasting." So we learned that so he gave him a good kick, a zetz to Haman as he was bending down to let him out onto the horse. And in this case, he's going back to the fasting because this is Yom Shlishi L'Tainisoi. This was the third day of the fast. They started fasting on the 14th day of Nisan. They started fasting. But the pasuk refers to the day before as Shlishi. Where do we see? It says, "Vayhi bayoim hashlishi vatilbash Esther Malchus." On the third day, but here we're saying that this was already in the next day. This came Balayla Hahu Nodosh Nasa Melech, and when Haman came, that was the day after, because first she came to the king, and then the king got suspicious. What's going on? She's inviting Haman with all the. So Rashi says, here we're saying this was the third day of the fast day, even though the pasuk says it wasn't the third day. Batil Bashesta Malchus. So that almost sounds like the third day of the fast day was the day before, not now. But here we're saying this was the third day of the fast day. So Rashi says that Yom HaShlishi means something else. It means Yom Shliach L'Shluch HaRotzim. That was the third day after they sent the messenger, the runners, to go out and declare. So the decree was given on the 13th. And the third day from the 13th, so it was the 13th, the 14th, the 15th. That was the third day, but the fast didn't begin to the 14th. And this, going back, this happened on the 16th, so now he went back to the fast day. Okay? And that's what it says. Haman was pushed to his home. Avel v'chafui rosh. He was mourning and with a covered head. What was he? Avel abitoi. He was mourning because of his daughter. Because we learned before, his daughter jumped off the roof or she fell off the roof. Okay, she was killed. So that's why he was mourning. V'chafui rosh, and covered his head. Al she'idole. What happened to him? He had a covered bucket of the otzitz that was thrown on him. So that's what we're talking about. Then the pasuk says, "Vaysaper Haman lezeresh ishtoi l'chol oyev." So Haman relates to his wife Zeresh and also to all of his friends, all of that love him. But in the verse later on, it says, the whole verse reads, he tells, Vayisapir Haman leZeresh ishtoi, ulechol oyavav eiskol asher karo, all that happened to him. So then the verse changes the terms. It says, Vayomru loi chachomov. Here first he calls them oyavav, those who loved him, his friends. Here it says chachomov, those his wise people, and Zeresh his wife. How did it change from oyavav to chachomov? And what do they say to him? They said, Zera Yehudim. The Gemara is going to translate this pasuk. If he is from the seed of the Yehudim, you started to fall. You won't be able to withstand. You're going to keep on falling. Okay. So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he calls them, those people, in this pasuk, first he calls them ulchol oyavav, and then the kori luhu chachamav. Then it says they told him the chachamim. So why were they lev chachamim? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, kol omer dvar chochma. Anybody who says something wise, even in the nation, the word nikra chacham is called a chacham. Basically, because the friends said something very smart, they said advar chokhmah, they said something wise, they changed from just bringing his friends to being chachamim. What did they say so smart? So look further. What did they tell him? They said to him, if Mordechai is from the seed of the Yehudim, what does it mean when he says if Mordechai is of the seed of the Yehudim? He means if it's from the tribe of Yehuda or one of the other tribes. Now it doesn't say if he's Jewish, im Yehudi. Mizera Yehudi means from some of the children. Some of the children of Yehuda, if Mordechai isn't. Now remember before we had a whole discussion, it says Ish Yehudi. And then it says Ishimini. Was he from the tribe of Yehuda? Was it tribe from Benjamin? Whether the intermarried was from both tribes, and the various different opinions. But in this case, the Gemara translates it. Amrulay, they say to him like this: if Mordechai comes from other tribes, Yachlatlei, then you can overcome him. But if he comes either from the tribe of Yehuda or Binyamin or Ephraim and Menashe, lo yachlatlei, then you won't be able to. Now, even though the pasuk just says imizera Yehudim Mordechai, I don't see in the pasuk a clear hint of Binyamin, Ephraim, and Menashe. It says just imizera Yehudim, so that can refer to the tribe of Yehuda. But the Gemara says either one, because the Gemara is going to bring Pesukim, verses that tell us that you don't start up with anybody who comes from the tribe of Yehuda, Binyamin, Ephraim, and Menashe. Yehuda, why not Yehuda? The Ksiv, over there it says, by Yehuda, it says, Yoducha ba'oiref eivecha. Your hands will be on the neck of your enemies, meaning the enemies will always be running from you, and you'll be dominant over them. So you don't have to worry. Enoch, the other ones, the Ksibahu, the other ones meaning Binyamin, Ephraim, and Menashe. This pasuk says by Yehuda, Yodcha ba'oref eivecha. This is by the bracha that Yaakov gave the son. So over there we see that power that they will be over their backs, so you can't start up with them. But where do we see Binyamin, Ephraim, and Menashe? Where do we see that? So I guess Binyamin is Ishimini. He was an Ishimini anyways. So that doesn't mean the word Yehudi means it, but he says, because he comes from Binyamin. But He also Ephraim and Menashe. Ephraim and Menashe, it says in Tehillim, it says Lifnei Ephraim and Menashe Ubinyom Menashe. He enumerates in this pasuk in Tehillim Ephraim, Binyom, and Menashe. These are the three tribes. Oidera es Gvuroscha. The pasuk says, Ulechol lishuah solanu. Arouse your strength and come to help us. Basically, that these tribes, Ephraim, Binyom, and Menashe, they have that special koyach. So basically, this was the smart thing that they told him, that if Mordechai comes from the tribes of Yehuda, Binyamin, and Ephraim, and Menashe, then you won't be able to. But rather, what do they say? Kinofel tipol lefanov. Fall, you shall fall before him. Why is there a double language here? The Gemara wants to know. Why does it say kinofel lefanov or tipol lefanov? Why nofel tipol, two fallings? But you're going to fall really hard. Dorash Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Lo. Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Lo, he expounded. Shtei nefiles halolu lama. Why do we have these two fallings? It says nofel tipol, two times. Amru Loi, they said to him, the friends or the chachamim, whatever you want to call them, they said to Haman that umazu meshula la'afar umeshula l'kichavim. They have been sometimes compared to the dust. We say ka'afar ha'oretz. They'll be like the dust, many as the dust. So they're compared to the dust of the ground. Umeshula l'kichavim. They've also been compared to the stars. Hashem says to Avram, look outside, can you count the stars? Sometimes like dust and sometimes like stars. What does it mean to say? When they descend, when they fall, Yerdim ad offer, they go down all the way to the ground. But when they go up, they go up all the ways up to the stars. Basically, you're going to fall very strong, because when they go up not regularly, they go up all the ways to the stars. So if they're going to go up to the stars, that means that your fall is going to be a double fall. So that's a good way. I've seen the Rebbe sometimes in the letters brings out this concept over here. When you see that Hashem is good to you, Oilim, you can be confident you're going to go up to the stars. Doesn't want to say about the other thing, but fortunately, we're learning also for the protection there is Yisrael. Unfortunately, what's going on there is really scary. The murders and all the terrible things. So hopefully, we as Chos will learn for Chos. Should be no more trouble. Anyways, further we learned in the Megilah. And the officers of the king came and they rushed. They rushed Haman. They rushed him. They didn't give him a chance. He needed to wash off from all the dirt that he got upon himself. He couldn't get clean. They pulled him out of the shower in the middle. He couldn't get clean. Rashi, Malamed Shiviu Bahola. They brought him in a rush. Couldn't wash well from his dirt. He couldn't clean himself off well. At the meal, Esther says to the king, Karnu Aniva Ami. We were sold. Yeah. Ki ein hatzar shoyve b'nezek hamelech. He says that the enemy is not worth the loss for the king. But here he says, he touches the word shoiva a little bit different. He says this enemy, shoiva means is worth. But here it means this enemy is not worried about the king's damage. He doesn't care. He hates the Jews. He wants to destroy the Jews. The king is going to get a major loss out of it, but this enemy doesn't worry about the king. Amr Eloi, Esther said to the king Achashverosh, Tsar zeh, this enemy, he doesn't worry about the loss of the king. And why? He said to him, take a look. He got jealous of Vashti because he was the one, as we learned earlier in the Gemara, who's the one that suggested that it would kill Vashti? That was who? Haman. It was Haman. So Ikani ba bevashti. Haman got jealous on Vashti. She was the queen. So he killed her. Hashto ikni bididi. Now he's jealous of me. He wants to kill me. And that's what he's saying, that this enemy doesn't care about the king's loss. King lost his wife Vashti and wants to kill me too now. And what's the king Esther? Here it says a strange lashon. So what does the king say? It says, "Vayomer HaMelech Achashverosh, Vayomer LeEsther HaMalka." A double language here. King Achashverosh said, and he said to Esther HaMalka. She just say, and he said to Esther HaMalka. What does it say? Vayomer HaMelech Achashverosh and Vayomer LeEsther HaMalka 2 times. Why do we need 2 times Vayomer over here? Amar Rabbi Abo. Says Rabbi Abo, Bitchila alidei Turgaman. In the beginning, he held himself on a higher level, Achashverosh. He didn't talk to his wife, Achashverosh, only through an intermediary. So, Amelech Achashverosh didn't talk to her. The king Achashverosh said, and let the other person tell her. It's like the postman found a card. This man is writing to his wife, and there's no message there. It's just a blank card. So he says, who are you sending it to? I said, my wife. He said, but you haven't written anything. He says, I'm angry. I'm not talking to her. So he says, why? In the beginning, he talked to her through a translator. So that's why I'm Achashverosh. But Kivan the Amrale, since he told him it base Shaul Kasina, that she comes from the house of Shaul, from the kingdom, from the tribe of Binyamin. Now he's talking to her. First, he wasn't talking to her directly. Vatoimer ish tsar ve'oyev Haman hara. And then she says hazeh. This one. What you have to add? Ish tsar, the enemy. This evil Haman. Why this? It seems like before she had to point out. Amar Rabbi Wolosow says Rabbi Wolosow. Originally, she was actually saying about Achashverosh. This is the evil man because he is the one that made the decree, that went along with Haman's decree. So that we learned this out. Why did it have to say Hazeh? No, this is Hazeh. No, this one. This is from the extra Atolem. You can learn this. I guess the ribu is the hazeh. There's an extra word. Ish tsar ve'oyev Haman hara hazeh. So there's an extra word hazeh here. Ubo malach v'soter yoda klape Haman. So the malach came and banged her hand towards Haman. This one, they shouldn't be pointing to King Achashverosh. So Achashverosh doesn't get angry at her. So the malach switched her hand to Haman. So then it says, "V'amelech kom b'chamosi." So after Esther tells the king about what's going on, how he wants to destroy her and everything, it says the king got up with anger. We're going there. And then it says, "V'amelech shov miginas habisa." And then the king came back from the garden of the front. So it says Hamelech v'Hamelech. So over here he says he got up with anger. Here he doesn't say. He says he returned. But the Gemara darshans, because it's together, it means just like he got up with anger. So when he returned from the garden, he also came back with anger. So the Makish Shiva Likimo. He equates the returning to when he goes out. Ma kimo bechemo, just like when he went out with anger. Av shiva bechemo, also when he came back anger. What was he angry about when he came back? So the Gemara, the Ozal v'ashkach lemalachi hashoris. He went and he came across the angels that serve Hashem, angels. The idmului kagavre. They appeared to him as people. They were angels, but they appeared like people. They were uprooting the trees of the garden. So he says, Achashverosh says to these people, that the angels that look like people, what are you doing? They said to him, the Pakdina Haman. Haman instructed us to take out these trees. Oh, also the Besa. So he went. So he came back angry, just like he went angry. He came back angry because they made up the story that he told him to uproot all the trees. The Haman Neufel Alamito. Neufel is a present tense. Haman was falling. It doesn't say he fell. He was falling, continuously falling. The Gemara says that a Malach tried to get up, the Malach kept on pushing him down. The Gemara says, Neufel, Nofel mi boile. He fell. Neufel is Loshen Oysev Oilech. He's keeps on doing it. Neufel v'roitze liskei v'malach mapiloi. He fell, he wants to get up, and the Malach keeps on pushing him down. So he's Neufel, he keeps on going down. Omer Rabbi Elazar, Melamed, Shabbat Malach v'piloi aleh. That the Malach came and he threw him down on Haman on top of Esther. Omar, so Achashverosh said, why mi beisoi, why mi bro? I have trouble in the house with Haman going after my wife. I have trouble in the outside, Haman going after the trees. What's going on? The king says, Hagam lichbesh is a malko imi babois. Do you want to capture the queen with me while I'm in the house? So Vayomer Charvoino. So Charvoino, who's one of the officers, he says, we have the tree in the house of Haman, which is 50 amas high. Who wants to kill Mordechai? Let's hang him on it. Amar Rabbi Elazar said, Rabbi Elazar, don't think that Charvoina was such a nice guy. Af Charvoina Rosha Beisei Tzahoya. Also, Charvoina was a Rosha in that advice. I'm assuming, how did Charvoina know that was made, that Haman made the tree for Mordechai? He was probably consulting him as well. Kivan Sherosh Leiniskaima Atzosei. Once he saw that his idea has not sustained to hang Mordechai, because the king actually had Miyad Borach. He ran away.
Don't we say Charbanda Zachar Latov?
Okay, great, good point. I was thinking about that. I guess that may be another opinion, number one. Maybe another opinion says, and maybe Zachar Latov, because he may have been with the same advice, but at the end of the day, we don't go by what he wanted to do. At the end of the day, he hung Haman. So Maybe that's why Zohar Latov. But I before that, I still don't understand. It says since he saw that his advice was not sustained, I'm assuming that because they couldn't hang home Mordechai. So it says he ran away, but he didn't run away. He was talking to the king and telling him, let's see what the Gemara brings a pasuk over here. Let's see. Behind the Ksiv, this is a verse that says in Iyov, Perek Chavov, Vayashmelech Olav v'lo yachmel miyodei b'roich yivrach. So the pasuk says there, he throws upon him without mercy, and from his hands he runs away. So basically, Rashi says, "Vayashlich olav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mashlich puronos ala rosha b'lichamlo." Hashem throws olav on the rosha, punishment, without mercy. And miyodei baruch yivrach. So b'nei Sayata v'chaverev, the people of his group and his friends, baruch miyodei, run away from him. So I guess Charboina was originally with Haman. So Baruch means he ran away from Haman. Minat Baruch, he ran away from Haman, that he didn't go along with Haman anymore, and he switched sides. Because it says that as soon as you see the punishment comes for the other side, then you switch side and you jump over onto the winning team. So he wanted to do bad to him, and then he changed around. Chamas HaMelech Shochocha. So the pasuk over here, it says V'chamas HaMelech Shochocha. But before, it says also Chamas HaMelech Shochocha. I have to find the pasuk. Why is it 2 times that he come down? So Achas Shamalku Shel Olam, one of the king of the world, is referencing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Hamas of the king of the world. V'Achas Shel Achashverosh, one of Achashverosh. V'Amri Lo, and others say he quieted down twice. Achas Shel Esther, one that he was angry about Esther. V'Achas Shel Vashti, and one because that says before that he killed Vashti. So he's angry, he was very angry. His anger flared and then is subsided. So that seems pretty pashut. Achas Shel Esther, Shayukos Achashverosh. By Vashti, he was angry because she actually killed her. But here he was angry Achashverosh, Masha also Esther, Haman Esther. What she did, what Haman did to Esther. The Gemara is going to make a drasha now from this pasuk, which is going to relate to we're just going to go just turn the page, so we'll go to the next page, and we'll leave it over there, just to say here. So the Gemara asks, it seems like unreasonable what Yosef did. After Yosef revealed himself to his brothers, so it says, L'kulam nosan leish chalifis smolis. To each one of the brothers, he gave a suit, or a change of clothing. U'lebinyamin nosan, and to Binyamin, he gave chomesh chalifis. He gave him 5 changes of clothing. He gave him 5. So it seems like he gave Binyamin so much better treatment. The Gemara wants to know, isn't it the whole reason why the brothers got jealous on Yosef? Because his father treated him specially. He gave him that coat, that Kesoinas Pasim. He gave him special treatment that got him all jealous. How could Yosef go ahead now and do the same exact thing what his father did? So the Gemara asks, Could it be the same exact item that this tzaddik? Tzaddik is Yosef. Yosef was in pain because of this. What was it? Le'eved nimka Yosef adekinas echov. He was sold as a slave through the jealousies of his brother. That's what he was sold to, right? Yikoshel boy, he should stumble in that same thing. The Omar Rava Bar Mechasya, Omar Rabbi Chaim Bar Guria, Omar Rava Bar Mechasya. In the name of Rabbi Chaim Bar Guria, the name of Rav said, Bishvil Mishkal Shnei Sloyim Milas, because of the weight of 2 sloyim of Milas. Milas is silk. He made him a silky garment. The entire weight was 2 sloim, a very small amount. Shahoisif Yaakov Yosef Mishar Echov, that Yaakov added to Yosef, gave him more than the other brothers. That happened with Nizgalgal Hadover. So this thing rolled out of control, basically, because of that. This rolled out the Yorda V'Seinu L'Mitzrayim. And our parents went down to Egypt. So how come he did that? So Omar Rabbi Yomin Bar Yefes says Rabbi Yomin Bar Yefes, Remez Ramazloi. It was a hint that he hinted to Binyamin. Sha'osid ben Lotsis Mimenu Sheyetze Fnei HaMelech. That there's a son destined to come out from Binyamin who is going to come out for the king. I guess Yosef knew this, Baruch HaKodesh, and that's why he did it, even though it was problematic. He's going to go out in front of the king, Machamisha Levushe Malchus, with the 5 garments of governance. There's the 5 different garments that Mordechai wore, who was a descendant, Ishimini, from the tribe of Binyamin. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Mordechai Yotza Belvush Malchus Tcheles V'Gomer, that he went out with the garment of Levush Malchus Tcheles V'Gomer. The Gemara is already darshaning the psukim. We might as well just do these psukim over here before we go back to darshaning the Gemara. But no, second thought, we'll leave it over here. All right. Let's do something on the, first of all, this Shabbos. We're going to take out how many Sefer Torahs? 3 Sefer Torahs this Shabbos. 3. It's very unusual. The only time we take out 3 Sefer Torahs is regularly on Simchas Torah. Now, very important to understand that, this would be a good lesson for the rabbis. Not to burden the people with too long speeches. The Torah is always concerned, the rabbis were concerned not to burden the people. Why do we take out different Torahs? Because we got to read in different parshios because of the events that are taking place. So why don't we take one Torah and just roll the Torah from place to place? It's actually what they do. If they only have one Torah, you use one Torah. There's no choice. But if there is other Torahs, then you roll it, everybody to its right place. Why? Because you don't want to trouble the people. Make sure the people should be comfortable. You don't want everybody have to sit and wait while you roll the Torah back and forth. So you make it separate Torah. See, it's very interesting to see how the rabbis were sensitive to the people. They didn't just burden them. And so why we're going to be reading 3 Torahs this week. So first of all, it's the portion of the week, is the portion of Tazria. That so happens. It's interesting that the portion of Tazria, some years it's after Pesach, most years, when it's not a leap year. When it's a leap year, it's before Pesach. So Tazria can go either way. Not only Tazria, there are a few of the parshas over here. This year we're also going to be reading, this week we're going to read Tazria, next week we're going to read Mitzorah. Only Achrei Mos is going to be after Pesach. But in most years, Pesach is before Tzav even, is earlier. And what's going to happen this year, because we had an extra year, an extra month, every Shabbos we read one portion of the Torah. So on a regular year, we combine a few parshas together, like Tazria and Mitzorah are most years together. Achrei Mos and Kedoshim are together. But this year, they're all going to be separate because we had to add a few more parshas for the week because we had an extra month. We had other Rishon. So that's why we read this week, we're going to be reading the portion of Tazria. Like I said, Tazria and Mitzorah are separate. This week Tazria, next week Mitzorah. So that we read every week. So we read Tazria. Then we have also Parshas. It happens to be Rosh Chodesh. It has to be Rosh Chodesh, the Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh Nisan is on Shabbos. Last week when we blessed the moon, you Birchas HaChodesh, you messed it in the coming Shabbos. The Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh. On Rosh Chodesh, we have to take out a Torah for Rosh Chodesh. It's also Parshas HaChodesh. Always the Shabbos, either before Rosh Chodesh Nisan or Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we start reading about Hashem's telling the Yidden to get ready for Pesach, which started on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So we read that. So because we have all three together, we're going to take out three Torahs. The first Torah we're going to read in the portion of Vayikra, the portion of Tazria. In the second one, we're going to read Rosh Chodesh from the portion of Pinchas, and Bamidbar in the portion of Pinchas, Korbanos. And the third one, we're going to do the Parshas Chodesh, the Chumash Shmois, in the portion of Boy. We're going to learn the portion of Achodesh Zalacha. And that's going to be the order. The order in the Torah, we always go, we read the more constant takes precedent, goes first. We always use what comes more regularly first. More regularly is what? The weekly portion. That we have every week we read the weekly portion. Tazria comes first. Next, every month we have Rosh Chodesh. That's why we're going to read Rosh Chodesh second. Once a year we read Parshas HaChodesh. Meaning as Parshas HaChodesh, we also read it in the regular order when we read Parshas Boy. That's part of the point. But a special Parsha, we do it once a year. It's last. And that's why the Haftorah gets mainly from the Parshas HaChodesh, and we put in a few psukim from Rosh Chodesh as well. Then we have all these things. Tazria represents in the Hasidic, based on the Gemara interpretation, it represents the work of a person working hard in order to achieve closeness to Hashem, in order to achieve greatness. It's the person. The Jewish people and Hashem are considered equated to a man and a woman. Hashem is their husband, and the Jewish people, Knesset Yisrael, we are the wife. We have the wife, so to speak, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And a lot of times, the way we get a feeling of an urge to get closer to Hashem, but it comes from Hashem. That would be Ish Kisazriya. Be like the man, which means Hashem pushes you. So those are an all of a sudden feeling of connection to Hashem is not lasting because you didn't work it through, you didn't last it, you just got it from above, you got it as a gift. But Isha Kisazriya, that means if the woman works for it, which means you prepare yourself, you work hard, you put in effort, you put in energy, and you put in koiches. So then that's why we call it Yolda Zochar. you give birth to a male. A male means, in the Kabbalistic terms, sustained. The difference between, I don't have any woman in the shear, so nobody will have any complaints to me, but it says that Noshim Daiton Kalas, Noshim's mind is light, which means they can easily be swayed. I don't know, some of you disagree with that, may have other experiences, but we're not talking, I'm talking what the Gemara says. But the Gemara says, so the way when we want to say that something is permanent, that it's strong, we say it's going to be like a male. He's stubborn. He has to have my way or the highway. It's just going to be, this is the way I said, I'm the king of the house, and that's the way it's going to be. I'm just putting those extra words. Got to be careful. This is recorded over here. But anyways, the idea is here is like this. If you work hard on achieving something, if you work hard on achieving closeness to Hashem, then it's going to be a lasting achievement because you worked through all the difficulties, you worked through all the steps, and you are therefore going to be able to maintain it. If it's just a outburst, comes from above, it's not done in a systematic, in a way, make a decision. I'm going to lose 100 pounds. Okay, it's going to last till the next day, till you see a nice piece of cake, and then you say, okay, I'm done. Make a new decision. But if you go through it systematically, slow, you don't do a little bit at a time. Get used to it. Success makes you want to be more successful, and then more successful. And when you do a little bit, and then you achieve, then it's lasting. So, but basically, the Parsha Kisazriya means working hard, achieving based on your work. The portion of Achodesh represents Hashem's miracles. Hashem jumped over that. But the truth of the matter, we need them both. And they're both also represents the level of nature. In essence, nature is the regular things that we see all the time. But nature itself is a miracle. The things that never change all the time. The sun comes up every day in the east, it sets in the west. But it's a consistent, it doesn't change the nature, but rather it is consistent. So that's why that is not something which has both. It has the nature and not nature. Yeah, can I call you right back? Yeah, I'm in the middle of a shear now. Can I call you right back, or you need me?
You call me back. It's important. Thank you.
I'll call you right back. Okay, I'm wanted. So, okay, so let's leave it here. We should see miracles beyond miracles. We need Hashem's help, and we need the miracles, and Hashem will bless us all. That we should hear of no more tzaras, only happiness and only goodness for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Again,
Thank you, Rabbi.
Hope we learned something.
We always do.